Thank you for pressing start on episode 86 of Underplayed, KZUM's indie video game podcast. Today, we have two secret games, a discussion with Brian of Protodude's Rockman Corner, and a review of our featured game, CrossCode. Here on Underplayed, we review indie games of all kinds, the games with small budgets but big hearts, the lesser-known experiences with imaginative ideas. I'm Bo Poe, and I'm joined by another. He got the platinum in Going Under. It's one of his numerous claims to fame. He's the ob-tier ib in a cooperative game. He runs like a pony. He loves pepperoni. It's the one and only DiscoCola. What's going on?
You know, I've been trying to attack this day at just the right angle, but I'm not sure I can pull it off. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. My first Scholars Guild member. It's great to see you join us.
Yeah, happy to be here. You know, I was at a wedding last week with my boss, and she told one of the other guests, you know, Disco here loves pepperoni. That's like his favorite food. And this guest that we were talking to, she was like, just pepperoni? Like, yeah. She's like, all right, to each their own, I guess.
What? That's not a weird thing to comment on.
You know, I wouldn't have, maybe she's from Germany, so maybe it's like, I don't know, but it didn't change my behavior.
Does your boss know that fact because of listening to Underplayed?
No.
Oh. My soul is just a little bit crushed. I was hoping the answer would be yes.
I'm so sorry.
But that just means that y'all get to know each other really well. That's great. It's great to have.
Popo.
Yeah.
I have a gimmick for this episode that I want to put in. Is that okay?
That is great.
Can you hear me
gimmicks.
out?
I love gimmicks. Pitch it to me.
I am very confident I know what your secret game is. I've had this guest lined up for 2 full seasons. And so what I want to do is write this guest down on a little piece of paper. We'll set it aside until it's your turn.
Okay.
And then you can flip it over and tell me if I'm right.
I love this idea, and I think I know what you think my secret game is. So what I'm saying is, I think this is pretty much a foregone conclusion that you have it right.
Okay.
I think if you've been following along in any small way, you should know.
I missed my chance to do this last season. So
I was going to ask, since you said you've known for a couple seasons.
Yeah. I knew, but I didn't I missed my chance to do it, or I wasn't thinking about it.
Right.
So
yeah, it is Wadham 2. You're correct.
Yes, I knew it.
So we'll get to that momentarily. But today we have a special guest. We have Brian of Protodude's Rockman Corner. This is a guest that you were instrumental in lining up, and I'm so glad that we get to talk to Brian. Anything to say about Brian up top? I know we've talked about him in other episodes.
Yeah, we've mentioned him a bunch. I'm looking forward to getting to talk to him. You know, for all the years I've been following him, I have learned a lot about his interests. I've learned a lot about Mega Man. I've even seen a picture of him before, but I've never heard him speak in my life. So I don't know what he sounds like, and I'm excited to hear his voice for the first time.
Interesting. I was assuming that he had appeared on some kind of show or podcast.
You know, you would think.
And I did look on YouTube, and I found a show that he appeared on. So I did listen to his voice.
So you know.
I heard his voice before you did, but you read his words before I did.
Yeah.
So there you go. So since we do have a guest this episode, and we're going to be reviewing CrossCode with that guest and talking to Brian about all of his work, we are going to move on pretty swiftly. But before we do, there are a few very easy ways to support Underplayed. They cost nothing, they take almost no time at all, and we would really appreciate you doing these things for us if you haven't already. So 1, you can give us a follow and a 5-star rating on the podcast platform you might be listening to right now, like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. That would make us appear more consistently for you and for other folks. Another thing you can do is you can follow us across social media using the links in our show notes. And 3, sharing our podcast by maybe reposting our stuff on social media or telling your indie game loving friends about us would mean a whole lot. And as always, we love you. Thank you for listening. It's time for our secret games.
Secret games.
games, we're each going to reveal a game we've been playing recently, and we're going to review those games. I don't know what DiscoCola is going to review today. DiscoCola knows what I'm going to be reviewing today. And even though he does know, we don't talk about them in advance. So we are going to start with DiscoCola. Let the mystery be no more. Reveal your secret game for episode 86 of Underplayed.
Yeah, you don't know mine, and I'm actually willing to bet you haven't heard of mine. My secret game this episode comes from Cosmic Nobab Games and is published by indie.io. It first came out on Steam in 2023, but I got my hands on it in April of 2025 when it came to Switch. My secret game is called LunarLux.
I have not heard of LunarLux.
I am not surprised.
This is very unfamiliar to me.
All right. So LunarLux is a turn-based, story-driven RPG. It takes place in the year 30XX on our moon, now referred to as Luna, 1,000 years after an apocalyptic event turned Terra into an uninhabitable volcanic wasteland. We play as the character Bella Gray. She's the poster child for the game. And a member of the organized lunar defense system. I don't really remember what this defense team is called, but it's like essentially a military of sorts. Mm-hmm. And their job is to protect the inhabitants of Luna from what are called mercs. And mercs are monsters made entirely out of antimatter.
Are mercs like... does it stand for mercenaries, or is it?
It's spelled with different? A U.
Oh,
so
M-U-R.
Yeah.
Oh, that's different.
Yeah. So if you see in the trailer anything that is non-human.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you're still going to get merked by the mercs.
Yes.
But different connotation.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
In the initial merc encounter of the game, though, we learn that Bella is actually very conflicted about killing mercs. So something inside her tells her that this is wrong. We also learn that mercs will sometimes drop what are called anticores, which is a stable form of antimatter. And these will come into play soon because we also learn that the antimatter comet named Coda is on a collision course with Luna and set to cause the exact same kind of catastrophe that befell Terra, unless Bella's father, Dr. Thomas, can get his wormhole machine operational. And this wormhole machine is powered with antimatter. Thus, the anticores are the most reliable fuel source. So this kind of throws Bella's confliction about killing mercs into the spotlight, as now the defense team is essentially planning to seek out mercs and hunt them down.
Okay. So
for their fuel.
Her thing is like, she's a pacifist?
I wouldn't necessarily say she's a pacifist. It's more like someone that doesn't want to kill animals to eat, essentially.
Sure.
It's closer to that. Like, she doesn't mind fighting.
Yeah.
But she doesn't want to kill the mercs. She feels like, they have souls and that they shouldn't be killed.
Okay.
So anyways, it's hard not to keep going with the story beats, but I'll stop there. That's like the first and foremost layer of conflict in the game, so I'll leave it there. As I said, this is a turn-based RPG. The battle system itself is sort of heavily inspired by the Mega Man Battle Network battle system. Mm-hmm. So you'll see Bella moving across the 3x3 grid.
Okay.
That comes from Mega Man Battle Network. It is turn-based, but you do have some agency when it's your enemy's turn. So you'll be able to move on that grid to try and attempt to block or evade your opponent's attacks. So there is some action input. Otherwise, everything else is based on exploring all of the different zones of Luna. So to move on, to let you know how I feel about LunarLux, honestly, it's going to be easier to start with things that I don't like about it. So
I don't actually know what you're implying there, because I don't know if you mean that there's more dislikes you have than likes, or if the dislikes section is so short and you're so passionate about the likes that you just want to get the dislikes out of the way.
That's
hard to know.
There's a lot that I like about this game. There are very few things that I want to nitpick about.
So
a very positive experience. Up first, this is going to sound like a weird one, and I don't feel that strong about it, but this game doesn't use the random encounter battle system. Now, in a lot of cases, random encounters can be super annoying, right? Mm-hmm. But similar to CrossCode, this game features a lot of exploration. And as someone that likes to explore, I would usually be getting some incidental grinding out of the way while exploring if this was a game with random encounters. Mm-hmm. So I'm not really leveling up as fast as I would in other RPGs that have the random encounter system. But that being said, you can seek out battles, they're in set spots and you can seek them out if you want to, but that's not something I always feel inclined to do.
Gotcha. So you can make the choice if you want, but it's cool that it's a choice a lot of the time. Yeah.
So, generally most people are going to prefer that, but I don't know. I like multitasking, I guess, is what I'm saying. Next up, there are essentially 3 different currencies in this game to buy and upgrade stuff, but I don't see there being a particularly good or easy way to grind out a good number of these currencies, or it's pretty much only from battles. And like I mentioned already, there are no random encounters, so all the battles, they're in their set spots, and I have to actively go seek them out and reload them if I want to do this grinding.
Okay. That's sort of a contrast to CrossCode, at least in my experience, where I feel like I'm getting a good amount of money as I'm going through without having to farm a ton.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of what even without doing quests, you're still getting a lot of money in CrossCode still.
Yeah, just always by battling.
Yeah. Then next, given Bella's conflict with killing mercs, I would have expected to unlock a method to pacify or contain mercs somehow, but that never really comes. We fight it out when those predetermined battles arrive. And without spoiling anything, certain story elements, or maybe more accurately, certain relationships and characters are a little one-dimensional or just seem a little cliche. It's not enough to ruin my investment in the story. Just maybe some of these, character elements could have been left out, or, relationship elements could have been left out.
Sure.
Last, but still a small complaint, it was a bit slow to start, and Chapter 4 felt a little bit too long. But otherwise, pacing was really good throughout the rest. But yeah, otherwise, I liked pretty much everything else about this game. My favorite thing is probably how the game encourages you to explore. It's littered with small little pickups all over the place, but you only get them from exploring. So it's all these little micro rewards for something I feel compelled to do anyways. And in the games where I do explore for no reward, that actually does a lot to dampen my enjoyment of those games. So this does a lot to keep me invested in exploring. Additionally, the way this game tracks collectibles and progress not only motivates me to keep going and collect more, but also gives me an idea of how much is left. I can see this being inspired by the way CrossCode tracks your progress, which, spoiler alert, I loved that in this game, in CrossCode as well. And I'm pretty confident that this is coming directly from CrossCode because, and to my next point, this game has so many references to other games.
Oh.
Specifically indie games.
Cool.
To start, there's loads of references and inspirations from various Mega Mans. The developer, Cosmic Nobab, has even made a Mega Man fan game, as I understand it. And there's also so many indie references, and in-game there's even a character that is specifically an indie game streamer, and he loves to share about indie games. And so we get direct mentions of games like Berserk Boy, Code Bunny, and more. I even encounter Emily from CrossCode in LunarLux.
No way.
Yeah.
What?
She's there. Emilyanator.
Oh my God.
She's there.
Does she speak the same way that she does?
Yep.
No way.
She gives us a little bit of French.
I love that.
Yeah, she's in there.
Oh my gosh. We'll probably talk about her later.
Yeah.
That's great.
Going on, I think the music in this is superb. There's a number of composers, it looks like, but they all killed it. I think this game sounds great. I think completing this game is loads of fun. I had zero intention of trying to 100% this game, but the way it's all designed has me feeling compelled to do so anyways. I haven't done it yet, but I want to. I think the pixel art is always good. There are certain techniques and choices made with character sprites that definitely remind me of Mega Man sprites.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of wonder if maybe the person behind Cosmic Nobab spent time in the same Mega Man sprite forums that I did, and I wonder if maybe we crossed paths there at one point.
Interesting.
And even though I could see the ending coming a mile away, I still did find myself invested in the journey that brought us to that point. So, to conclude, LunarLux is a game I bought day one when it hit Switch, and I bought it for the great art and Mega Man inspirations I saw in the trailer. I never expected that I would love this game as much as I do. It is a great example of a pared-down RPG, similar to the likes of Jack Move.
Ah, cool.
And I love that there continues to be more and more of these. I highly recommend this to busy RPG fans or to anyone looking for something that is like CrossCode. It ended up being just a little bit longer than I was prepared for, but part of that just has to do with how compelled I was to complete the game. In short, this game impressed me a lot, and I just learned today that there's an upcoming sequel called LunarLux Eternity, and I am so excited. I give LunarLux a 9.5 out of 10.
Ah, sweet. I had never heard of this. I know that you bought it based on like how it looked and everything, but how did you actually encounter it? Like, did it come out to Switch and you were just browsing the store? How did you see it?
I think I must have followed Cosmic Nobab at some point for pixel art that they posted online or something. And I just saw like posts about LunarLux at some point. And so I think one of the posts I saw was like, coming to Switch, April 2025. I'm like, I'm buying that day one.
I love just looking at the trailer how you see other kinds of influences, like with the active input stuff that you're doing so often. It seems like it's taking inspiration from the Mario RPGs. You can't just sit there and it's not just sitting there and making a selection during your turn of what you want your characters to do and then sitting back like you're reacting to stuff. And I like the look of the mini games too. That's really switching things up and changing even just like the overall color scheme to something more basic. And this looks really cool. About how long?
Yeah, you're talking about the games that you play with Tetra. The really fascinating concept there. If you're familiar with Spyro Year of the Dragon and those levels that you play as Sparks, the dragonfly.
Yes.
Similar concept there.
Very cool. And then did you say how long it took you?
No. So still not quite 100% complete, but collecting a lot got me at about 11 and a half hours.
That's a little bit more than Jack Move from what I remember,
and
but still in that lower range.
I was expecting about 8 hours, but I also knew that How Long to Beat didn't have a lot of entries for it. So I knew it could go either way.
Gotcha. That's great. Do you think our guest today has heard of this game?
It's possible. I wouldn't be surprised if like Cosmic Nobab and Protodude follow each other.
Yeah.
So it's very possible. When I saw the trailer, I didn't necessarily think this was going to be as much of a Mega Man like as it was. So I don't know. I don't really know if it's like super on his radar. But also, this game is a lot like CrossCode too. So way more than I expected.
Interesting. I have yet to hear of like a CrossCode like, because CrossCode just seems like an amalgamation of so many things. So then to take that and have it inspire more games is probably less likely, but that's really cool.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes CrossCode stand out the most is like you don't enter a proper battle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just all there.
So, and that's not present here in LunarLux. So the big identifying factor of CrossCode is absent, but I do still see a heavy amount of inspiration.
Very cool. Well, it's always great to learn about a game I had no idea of before the episode. So thanks for sharing about that. Where can you play LunarLux?
You can play LunarLux on PC, Android, iOS, and Nintendo Switch.
Very great. It is time for my secret game. And it's also time for me to pick up your little piece of paper here. and reveal that you are probably correct. How should I do this?
I don't know. We can say it at the same time when you give me a little like.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And I also flip it over? Wait,
Sure.
how is this working? Okay, so on the count, wait, I'll just say my secret game is wait, so you need to say it too. Oh, no, you let me do my joke. My secret game is, why don't you say it?
Okay. The Room 4 Old Sins.
I was going to say Half Minute Hero Super Mega Neo Climax Ultimate Boy.
I've never heard of that.
It's an indie game.
Okay.
But that's not the game I chose. That is correct. The Room 4 Old Sins is a puzzle game first released in 2018. It was developed and published by, you guessed it, Fireproof Games. They create and publish this series. And the game synopsis from the Steam storefront reads, quote, "The disappearance of an ambitious engineer and his high society wife provokes a hunt for a precious artifact. The trail leads you to the attic of their home and the discovery of an old, peculiar dollhouse. What secrets lie within these walls?" End quote.
I see that. Is this like maquette? I see that dollhouse.
You know what, Disco? I had this thought in my last play session with the game. I was thinking, this is a lot like Maquette. Like, of all the Room games, I've played 4 of them now. This one is reminiscent of Maquette because you're interacting with a dollhouse for pretty much the whole thing. And I'll get to that in a second. I just want to say that reviewing this game will bring this series to a close here on Underplayed.
You're not going to play the VR one.
I'm not going to play the VR.
Yeah, you told me you weren't.
There's a VR game called The Room VR, A Dark Matter. It came out after The Room 4 Old Sins, but I probably won't play it. I'm just going to keep it to like the mainline non-VR games. If they release like a Room 5, I don't know that they will at this point because they've moved on to other stuff. If they do that, I'll check it out for sure. But this is something I've been doing on the 9th episode of every season for the past several seasons, and here we are.
That's how I was able to guess.
Yes, so that's how Disco knew. I just want to say before we get into it that I have to report something. I have to get on the tiniest little soapbox. Okay. And I mean, like, it's so tiny that
I don't even know what you're going to say right now.
It's so tiny that it is like a box that you would have like a bar of soap come out of, like a Dove bar of soap.
A literal
it is that
soap box.
It is that small of a soap box. I am perplexed at the naming strategy of this game, DiscoCola. Okay, let me walk you through what came before this.
Yeah,
so there was The Room, right?
Right. Then, Season 5, Episode 9.
Then there was The Room 2, okay? And The Room 2 spelled TWO.
Yep,
okay?
I see that.
Then The Room 3.
Yep.
The next season.
TRHEE.
Exactly, spelled out. Now we have The Room 4. Numeral 4 with the subtitle Old Sins.
Yeah.
What were they thinking?
I don't know.
Why did they go? They had something going.
Yeah.
They ruined it. I feel like they fumbled it with the title. They just...
It's like Too Fast, Too Furious levels of silliness.
It's like, picture one of your kids just wandering through the street, just toppling trash cans over. That's what they did with the title.
Soapbox is growing.
It bothers me.
It bothers me too.
It bothers me. I don't see anybody else talking about
I
this.
even saw one storefront or something didn't even put the 4 in there for a while. I had this written down as just The Room Old Sins.
That's the other thing is when you look up this game, it switches back and forth. It's like half and half. It's like you see The Room Old Sins and then The Room 4 Old Sins. I can't make heads or tails of why It's so inconsistent. On Wikipedia, it says The Room, Old Sins, or The Room 4 Old Sins is a puzzle video game. It's like, pick one.
Yeah.
I'd actually maybe prefer keeping that 4, even though it's numeral, because if you say The Room, Old Sins, you can't, on the face of it, tell which one it is in the series. Anyway, I'm stepping out off my soapbox.
I'm with you.
Yes, thank you. Well, I don't feel so alone anymore. It's the two of us. There are tens of us who have problems with this. So in The Room 4, Old Sins, you're a member of a mysterious organization called the Circle, and you're looking for the 5th element called the Null, which I've talked about on this show 3 other times now, and I will do it a 4th. The Null is the central mystery and the force behind what's going on in this series. It is extremely powerful. It can transfer matter across time and space, and it's how you're able to explore all the rooms you solve in these games. So reality really bends and shifts, and the Null allows very strange things to happen. And the story focuses on the Lockwoods. There's Edward, an engineer, and his wealthy wife, Abigail. And you're tracking the story of them to find the Null. And you do this by entering their home called the Waldegrave Manor, and you go into their attic, which has this dollhouse that is a replica of their manor. So you're in this attic space, interacting with this dollhouse, and going into all of its rooms and having those rooms expand to fill the screen. That's how you're discovering about the couple and learning about the layout of their house. But it's the house that your character is standing in. Does that make sense?
I think so.
So that's where we get to the maquette idea.
Yeah.
It's very much like maquette. Like the room you're standing in is the room you're looking at on the dollhouse, and then you go into that room. It's just, it's wild.
For newcomers, maquette is a secret game Bopo reviewed back in episode 3 of Underplayed.
Way back in the day, years ago at this point. Your second child was not even born yet.
It's true.
It's true. So you examine all the rooms of this dollhouse. You learn this story of this couple. And the rooms that you explore are the foyer, the study, the kitchen, the curiosity room, the maritime room, the garden, the Japanese gallery, the art studio, and the attic. And like previous titles, this is sort of an escape room style puzzle game where you have lots of buttons, switches, and keys and locks to find. Each room has intricate models and devices that you tinker with. And along the way, you're hopefully finding the Null and learning what happened to the Lockwoods. So here's what I liked about the Room 4 Old Sins. I think this has some of the smoothest gameplay and the highest fidelity in the series. This series just keeps one-upping itself in so many ways. These are a few ways it does that. I love the variety of this game because we have a strong sense of cohesion at the same time. So you're in all these different rooms, but they feel like they're part of the same dollhouse. But also, like, how often do you look at a dollhouse and see normal things like a study and a kitchen, but also a Japanese gallery?
Japanese gallery was like an ear catcher for me.
Not on my bingo card. Or like a maritime room is kind of strange. Or a curiosity room. The curiosity room is a room of curiosities, and there's a lot of strange stuff in there. And I love that variety, but as I'm going through, unlike some of the other room games, it doesn't feel so disparate. Like, it doesn't feel sort of random. It feels connected. I also love that this game introduces some fun new ideas that I don't remember from the other games. There's a section where you have to use gravity. There is a section where you have to change the direction of steam. You're changing the direction of water. So I think that's really fun. I think they continued to just find new ideas throughout this whole series. And I also love that from the Room 3, they're carrying on this same level of difficulty that I think is tuned just right. There are no obtusely hidden objects like we sometimes had in the early games. There's no sense of being overwhelmed by how many objects you're carrying. You have an inventory that has 5 slots, and I barely filled them up to 4. I think I filled them to 4 once, and I most of the time only had 1 or 2 items to mess with. So you pick up items, you sometimes examine them closely, and you have to adjust little parts of the items to turn them into something new. You don't always have to do that, but that really freshens things up as well. And when it comes to things that I didn't like as much, I think there's some of the parts I disliked from the room 3 carrying on here. So there are times where you have to back out of rooms and go into other rooms. And every time you back out of a room, there's this transition. And then maybe you're looking at the whole entire dollhouse. And then you rotate the dollhouse, you find the other room you need to go in, and you have to put on your eyeglass, which lets you see special markings of the knoll. And it's how you enter into the different rooms of the dollhouse. Throw on the eyeglass, click on the room, then it transitions again. And it's just every time we have to do this, I feel the momentum really going down. It's slow. I think the speed of it really matches the mood and the tone. If it was rapid, I don't know that would match the feeling of this attic and this dollhouse. But because we have to backtrack and go into all these rooms constantly, it's just you spend a lot of time backing out, spinning the thing around, going into another room. It just takes so many seconds added up over time. And there are times where you get an object and you know this is the thing you need to use next, and you might not use it in the room you're in. And there are 2 or 3 other rooms open that you could use it in, and it's not immediately clear which room it goes to. So then you have to go back, go into all the different rooms. You're spending all that time. And I just had times where I had to use hints in this game because, specifically, I would get a key item and it wasn't immediately clear to me. And the hints in this game continue to be super helpful. Sometimes the very first hint is like, I picked up this key that's reminiscent of the maritime room. And then that's just telling you go into the maritime room. So that was saving me time. So that's really it. Overall, the room 4 Old Sins is set in this dollhouse, which I actually didn't expect with the sense of growing scale that was happening in previous titles. But I think this dollhouse is the culmination of the series' best qualities. The Fireproof Games team cooked with this series, and in most ways, I think each game gets better and better as you go. Play this. I don't think you need to play the others first as well, if you're curious. I'm going to rate it an 8.5 out of 10, which is the same score I gave to the Room 3. But I think I would slightly prefer, well, maybe it's recency. Maybe that's why I'm saying this. I think I like them about the same. I'd probably flip a coin to determine which one is my favorite.
Right.
So it's playable on PC, which is the version I played, Android and iOS.
Awesome. Well, I expected you to say 8.5 because I didn't, not because I thought, you didn't, that you liked it the same as the Room 3, but I didn't think that you felt it was a 9. So it's just like,
it just doesn't seem like the kind of game that warrants a 9 for me. I will say, I didn't say enough about this. This has probably my favorite story of all the games. The first 2 are super ambiguous and vague and nebulous with their stories with AS, the character that you're following. The third game has the Craftsman, a completely different character that you're following. But I actually like Edward and Abigail's story. It's super easy to follow. It doesn't get in the way of the puzzle solving. There's just enough of it. You don't feel like you're overwhelmed with how much you're reading from them. It's basically every room you go into, you get to read a passage from one of them, and you're following basically a back and forth journal. And I found that super fascinating. And what happens to them is something that I actually will remember from this series compared to some of the stuff from like the Room 1 and 2, for sure. So I really like it. Did I say what it's playable on?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
The only thing that I had a question about was just regarding your transitions. Were there puzzles or sections where you would have to go back and forth between a set of rooms multiple times in the same sort of like segment, I guess?
A little bit. I remember going back and forth between 2 rooms maybe. I also remember a time where I had, I think, 3 rooms available, and I had to do something in room A that brought me to room B, and then something in there brought me to room C, which is kind of cool. I also like how there are 9 total rooms in this dollhouse, but all 9 are not open to you at any time. As you find a certain like artifact in each one, the knoll will sort of like take over the room and close it off to you, and then you're done with that room.
Oh.
And then maybe within 5 or 10 minutes later, you're opening up a new room. So it's like you start with the first 3 rooms, and then eventually that first room closes down and room 4 opens up. So there's this cool like overlapping leapfrogging thing going on with the rooms. I like that.
There's a little bit of that going on in Moncage, which we reviewed earlier
Yeah,
this season. So
right.
you can always access all 5 of the 6 sides of the cube, but some of them will be very obviously like inactive, like there's nothing left to do there.
Sure. So it's just very clear to you. Like you can look at the outside of those rooms once they're done, but you can't zoom into them like you used to. So it's really cool. And you're finding items in the rooms of the dollhouse that you also affix to the exterior a lot. And that's how you usually unlock a new room. And so it's just really cool. The layers of the dollhouse are so interesting. And also I get the sense that there is some kind of secret ending like you could get with the room 3. The room 3 actually had like 4 different endings or something. And I think there are some secret eggs that I need to find if I want to see like perhaps a secret ending. I haven't looked into what it is, but I have rooms that have like slots where I can fit these decorative eggs.
Interesting. Okay.
And I know that decorative eggs go there because there are some that are mandatory to progress, but then you see places to put more eggs. So I'm wondering if I just missed where some of them were. Not sure, but
it's the animal well.
It kind
treat.
of, it reminded me of that. Yes. Maybe Billy Basso played the room 4.
And was like,
while
eggs,
he was
that's the thing.
Eggs, that's what I craft layer 2 of my game around. So those are our secret games, LunarLux and the Room 4 Old Sins. Let's move on to our discussion with Brian of Protodude's Rockman Corner, this episode's special guest. We have a special someone coming onto this show. He has Mega Man news before Capcom knows. Finding it yourself can be a bit of a slog, but it's all in one place if you go to his blog. The Blue Bomber's his beat. His updates are neat. He shoots lemons out of his arm. Let's give a warm welcome to Brian of Protodude's Rockman Corner. How's it going?
Amazing. And that was delightful. That was the best, warmest welcome I've ever received on a podcast. Love that.
I remembered that he was going to do it this time, but I was like, I have no idea what he's going to say for this one.
I totally didn't write that as I was rotting in bed with my dog this morning. Totally didn't do that just like a few hours ago.
Oh. It reminded me of like an NPR wait, don't tell me monologue. You know?
Right. We try to personalize things for each guest. And
man, maybe we should call that guy and try to get his voice.
Ooh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Anyway.
Sample it and maybe make something with it. But Brian, it's great to have you. Thank you so much for agreeing to do an episode of Underplayed with us. And we're excited to talk to you about the work you do and also to talk about CrossCode with you. So yeah, it's great to have you.
Yeah, happy to be here, guys. Thank you.
So yeah, we want to start by getting to know you. We're going to ask you a couple questions. A lot of them are going to be Mega Man focused, obviously, because, you know, that's your beat. And I love Mega Man as well. So this is sort of like really for me too as well. I'm really excited to pick your brain. I've been following you for years, so I'm excited to ask you these questions personally. So to start, of all of the classic franchises in gaming, you got Mario, you've got Zelda, you got Sonic, all the ones that always make those like cool art, fan art collages. Mega Man sometimes gets left out. How did you get stuck on Mega Man games?
You know, it's the funniest thing. When I was growing up, I was not allowed to play video games. So my first real introduction to Mega Man was on the cover of GamePro magazine back in '94. He was on the cover. I saw him and I'm like, oh my God, that's the coolest looking character I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like it before. And I would go to the library and I would just keep borrowing like GamePro magazines and looking for like Mega Man content. And, you know, I'd like cut the screenshots out or cut the character out, draw the character. And just like one fine Christmas morning, my grandparents betrayed my parents and gave my brother and I a PlayStation. And I was like, oh my God, I can finally play Mega Man. And that's kind of where it started.
Cool. It sounds like you had never really seen a character like that.
Oh no, it was so cool. Like in the early 90s, I was really into like Power Rangers and stuff. But seeing Mega Man, he was like this cool combination of like a robot, a superhero, and it was just the sickest looking guy. So yeah, it was really the character design, the art that hooked me at first.
Yeah,
I just fell in love with the games after.
That sounds like what I hear Disco talking about. You know, he falls in love with the art, sometimes the music of a game, and then he discovers one of his favorite titles that way. Yeah, that's how we get into this stuff.
So that means your first Mega Man was probably X4 or 8?
You got it. X4 and 8.
And 8.
Believe it or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. X4 was first. I definitely have the most sentimental value with X4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you can think of me as almost the third wheel in this conversation because Disco and I do have a history of Mega Man together. Disco grew up playing Mega Man games with his brothers, and they just loved those games, played them all the way through multiple times. And then when we got to know each other in high school, we would do these Mega Man marathons at my house where Disco and his brothers would come over, we'd invite our friends, and we'd play through, what would it be, like 6 games at once or something like that?
Yeah, as many as we could get through. Like we did the classic series, so we got through 8, and then we did a part 2 to get through like 9 and 10, I think.
Yeah. And then we did the X series.
Yeah.
So Brian, I technically have touched and played all the games, but I will not remember all the intricacies of all of them. But I'm nonetheless in awe of the 2 series that I've played, and then also all the offshoots, all the other series that Mega Man has birthed over the years. But I do recognize some things you guys are talking about. Like I have vivid memories of going to Blockbuster as a kid and looking at the games section, going down the PlayStation aisle and seeing Mega Man 8 and just like the super blue cover.
Yeah, just very blue.
Very, very blue. And I love the color blue. And I just like remember checking that game out. And then I eventually got myself a copy on PlayStation. I think there was a way for me to like just buy that copy from Blockbuster. And I just, I enjoyed that. And I also grew up playing Mega Man X, just the first X game in the series. That was my first Mega Man game. So let's talk about how you transitioned from an everyday Mega Man fan to then being the primary source of Mega Man news, including like being a man on the inside. How did that transition take place? Walk us through that.
Yeah, it was a very organic transition. It's not something that I, set out to do. I was a fan after getting that PlayStation. I had started to discover Mega Man fan sites, and I was really into like the message boards and basically checking in on these sites every day to stay up to date on the news. Because back in the day, there'd be like new Mega Man games announced all the time. So I did not want to be behind on that. And about like 2008, a friend of mine started this Mega Man site of his own called Rockman Synergy. And he kind of like tapped me to kind of be the news guy because he knew how much I just enjoyed keeping my ear to the ground when it came to Mega Man. And I would report the news on his site. And from there, it was a really small site. And at the time, there were 2 other Mega Man sites, the Mega Man Network and Planet Mega Man. Like those were like the Nintendo and Sega of the Mega Man community. And we were just this really small little dinky thing. And as fate would have it, the people that ran the Mega Man Network and Planet Mega Man, they lost interest and they stopped updating their sites. So gradually people started to come over to Rockman Synergy. And suddenly I was finding myself as the source of Mega Man news. But Rockman Synergy went down. My friend lost interest in that. And I was like, okay, I still like reporting the news. I still like staying up to date on it and informing people, So I had like no money. I couldn't buy my own domain or anything like that. So I set up a little blogger on Google, Rockman Corner, and I just carried on the work from there. And a lot of the people that followed me, they gradually transitioned over. And I remember in the early days, I was just like watching the web counter, the ticker. There were like 5 visitors today, 10. And I was really kind of bummed out for a while. Like, oh, no, it's not really growing. Maybe I'm going to lose interest. But then I don't know. I got the scoop on Mega Man 9 before Capcom announced it. There was a guy that was really inspired by my work on the blog and my passion, and he basically like let me in on it early. And suddenly, everyone's coming to Rockman Corner for this Mega Man 9 thing. A lot of people, didn't believe the news, like, "Oh, this is fake. This is a nobody, whatever." And I think it was like a few weeks later, Capcom officially announced it, and suddenly I'm reputable.
Right.
And just from there, it just like it grew and grew, and it's always been a hobby. It still is. I love it. I do it every day, or I try to do it every day. And just like over the years, I just attracted like an audience and all these like little connections here and there between Capcom's partners at Udon Entertainment. They do like their art books and their manga. Some of the people that do the toys, they came to view Rockman Corner as like the place where the community gathers and they can get a real feel of what fans are looking for, what fans are interested in. So that's how I kind of naturally found myself in a position of kind of a liaison between the fans and Capcom and their partners. So that has been really cool. And, when I think back to when I first started, unimaginable. Who I've been talking to, who I'm working with behind the scenes, it's been crazy. Loved every part of it.
That's really dope. I remember the first time that I really like picked up on how connected you really were is I think before Mega Man X Dive came out, you were like dropping these like little hints about, oh, there's something coming, and here are these like 4 pictures, and people were just like left to speculate wildly. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's connected. This is so cool. It was like starstruck kind of. But
those are like, I've had to learn, but it's really hard to keep a secret.
Yeah,
it really is, especially when a certain game or something is in development and you legally can't say anything.
Yeah.
But, if I can, I try to give the fans a little crumb that could lead them to what's going on, because I know how bad everybody wants new Mega Man games. So I try where I can.
Yeah.
But that was a very fun period for the community.
Yeah, for me, even just knowing, even if I am not smart enough to put the clues together, just knowing that there is something is like enough for me sometimes. It's just like, oh, okay, they're still working on something. That's nice.
Yeah. And I think that's the least a lot of fans want. They just want some kind of assurance these days. And while Capcom can't really go out of their way to say anything, people like me, we try where we can.
Yeah.
So.
And you've done this long enough that you understand that delicate balance of maintaining the trust of keeping that knowledge, but also giving a little nugget of hope to those people out there. Like, I would probably mess that up. I would probably spill way too much, and then I would never be trusted with news again, and I'd be moving on to something else.
Oh, man. Yeah. We've had a few close calls on my end where I would say too much, and there would be a phone call from Capcom's legal department or DMCA stuff. But those things have always ended amicably. We're all good friends here. We're all rule followers, and nothing that I report on or do is ever with malicious intent. But over the years, I've had to learn to kind of toe the line where needed, to shut up basically when I need to.
Yeah. It's a gray area. Like, it's not everything's black and white. And your history, your experience, I think, is unmatched by a lot of Mega Man fans. So you're the one who's in there, like, who knows how to handle that stuff, which is really cool.
Well, thank you.
Well, we might jump ahead to this one, swap it up a little bit, just because it's relevant. We've had like several dry spells in the Mega Man fandom. So like, especially the time before Mega Man 9, that was an especially long dry spell. The time before Mega Man 11. What's been your headspace overall during those times? Like,
just kind of having like a toe in on the other side and knowing how Capcom operates. My headspace is basically, I understand why it's like this. I don't agree with it, but I understand, and I know that eventually that there will be something, and that it will be something of quality. A lot of Capcom's strategies with Mega Man have changed in the last 10, 15 years. Before, it was about doing these real low-budget projects, many of them having them come out within a fiscal year and doing moderately well. But recently, they have a single Mega Man game every few years that can go on and sell for a long period of time. Whereas a game would come out and just the sales would kind of drop year to year because of the expectation of the audience. We'll just get the next one, next one. There's time for word of mouth now, and there's time for these games to kind of find an audience they haven't really had before. And I think there are a lot of fans who see that the dry spells as, oh, Capcom's being evil, they hate Mega Man. And that's further from the truth. They really do care about Mega Man. They want the brand to grow in a way that I think they want to see it succeed, just like Resident Evil or Monster Hunter. But to do that, they have to put out fewer games, grow that audience through these kind of long periods of time where the game will go on a sale. It'll be available as a bundle. They'll promote the game through like an official animated shorts, or they'll make figures based off of the game. Just doing whatever they can to kind of get an audience hungry to pick up and play the next game. Knowing what their strategy is kind of allows me to be chill. And I've tried to impart that knowledge to my readers, to other fans about how Capcom operates. And some will walk away with a better understanding of why things are. Others don't. and that's okay. They, for them, the proof is in the pudding. And all I can ask of those people is to just, have patience, and we'll play the next game when we'll play the next game.
I think it's easy to, like, when I am anticipating the next entry in a long-running series that I love and it's just taking forever, I think this feeling of like neglect can kind of set in. Like, are they neglecting this baby of theirs? Like, have they fallen out of love with the thing? Kind of like the people who used to run the news sites. But yeah, they're people too. They're a company. They're a business. They have this rich history with this franchise and these characters. Like, they want it to succeed too. That's a good reminder. Not just about Mega Man, but lots of other series out there.
Yeah. As someone that collects a bunch of like toys, Transformers and stuff, I'm comforted by how often there's like new Kotobukiya sets and how they've been keeping up with that, and how Jada Toys are doing all those classic Mega Man characters. So like through the toys, I am comforted in the idea that Mega Man is still something that is beloved by someone that hands out the licenses. So that's where my comfort is coming in.
Yeah.
So on Rockman Corner, can you talk about how you source your information and news? I know you talked about that person giving you the bit about Mega Man 9, and then you were able to carry that forward. Is that how information comes to you mostly? Is it you proactively going out and asking questions and investigating? Is it a mixture of all that stuff?
It's a mixture of all that stuff. A lot of it, I would say the bulk of it, is going out onto Twitter or Japanese blogs, looking at people in Japan and basically seeing what they are finding Mega Man wise. For example, like a recent example would be there was like an unannounced Mega Man figure found on a Japanese auction site, and this was discovered by a fellow in Japan. They posted about it on Twitter. I went to go verify it, that, this is real. This is very curious. Make a story about that on Rockman Corner, and then directly source the guy that found it. A lot of the times there is a lot of research involved where I will go and poke people who may have been involved in the games in the past. I did a story on Mega Man Universe, which was one of the canceled Mega Man games from 2010. And there was a lot of information out there about the game, but at the same time, there wasn't. And I wanted to dig deeper on that. So I would poke people who were involved with the game at that time and, just kind of have a discussion and see what I can learn. And if there's anything really noteworthy there, that I think the fans would like, I would report on it.
Hmm.
But my real like day-to-day blog routine is it's as simple as, you know, typing in Mega Man or Rockman on Google, doing the like tools last hour, last 24 hours, and see what pops up. And you know, sometimes there's stuff that happened that way. Like the Kotobukiya kits. There was one just announced the other day, and that was found through just like a really quick run through of like the latest tweets going on in Japan or Kotobukiya. And yeah, you know, I'm really good about giving credit where credit is due. It's always great for me to, you know, produce some original content like articles. But if another site or a blog has written this beautiful article about Mega Man, I happily link and credit them as well.
That's great. Yeah, lifting each other up. We love to see that. I did take a look at Rockman Corner, and I saw that there are articles posted consistently. Like, you know, every week you're seeing new stuff there. Do you find that?
Oh, yeah.
Do you find that every tidbit is newsworthy? Do you leave stuff on the cutting room floor, or is it just anything?
I want to say mostly anything. In the past, it was all caps anything. Like if a company announced, you know, officially licensed Mega Man underwear, I'd be on that. You know, people have to know. But you know, nowadays it's like, do people really need to know about new Mega Man underwear? So that kind of stuff, not so much. But if it's like things like, you know, the new game announcements or a developer from Capcom said this, had this comment, or even like if a fan produced a fan game that looks utterly magnificent, I will go out of my way and do a blog post for that, you know, to kind of lift each other up. But yeah, I've been a bit more careful curating, you know, what is considered newsworthy. There have been times in the past where something I found interesting wasn't to other people. Like it would be someone discovered like these rare like collectible Mega Man coins that was sold only in Japan for like a year, and I wanted to post the pictures of those to kind of preserve them. You know, like look at these cool coins you'll never see again. And some people are like, "Why is this news? This isn't news." And I think a lot of that comes from frustration of, you know, they want to see or hear some real news. You know, yeah. But yeah, I'm a bit more careful about, more conscientious of what is considered news these days and what isn't.
Okay, yeah, I think you toe that line really well. I want to throw it back to just getting into the meat of Mega Man. So, and your personal experience with it. So this one's a bit of a two-parter. Of the 5+ Mega Man series, which one is your overall favorite and why? And then, in order, if you're willing, could you list your top 10 favorite Mega Man games? And apologies in advance to the listener, you're just going to be hearing a bunch of letters and numbers if you're not a Mega Man fan. But for me, this is a really great question.
Oh man, gosh, my favorite series is most likely Mega Man X. Yeah, definitely Mega Man X. You know, there's a lot of sentimental value there, but it's also just for me the most well designed, the best music, the best character designs, just gorgeous art direction. You know, I love everything about Mega Man X. It's just, it toes this really fine line between like gritty, realistic Mega Man, but still being kind of manga and anime Mega Man, very kind of cute still. It's just cool, you know, and just the games are just so good. Like even if you're not a Mega Man fan, I would recommend the X series above them all, just because they are so well designed. I mean, not all of them, but if I had to recommend Mega Man games, it's from the X series. Fantastic. As for my top 10, that is always really hard because they're kind of in flux. Not all of them, but like maybe my last 5 are. But my top 10 in order are Mega Man X4, Mega Man Legends 1, Legends 2, Mega Man 6. That's an unusual choice. 4, Battle Network 3, Battle Network 6, 03, Mega Man X8, Maverick Hunter X, and Mega Man 8.
Okay.
So kind kind of all over the place. Yeah, I didn't say anything from ZX. I like ZX, but I wouldn't put one of the ZX games in my top 10. But those 10 are the ones that I consistently revisit. If it's either through playing through them again or just booting up their soundtrack, it's those 10 that I'm returning to.
Yeah. Wow. I noticed that Mega Man 2 isn't on here. Controversial choice. I agree with you, but controversial. And 03 is on mine for sure. 4 is the one that I'm also with you on. That's like, I don't see it in a lot of top lists, but I really like Mega Man 4.
Yeah. Good one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I do recognize a couple of those games. I've played some of those, so I feel like somewhat qualified to be.
I'm happy that 03 is on there. I'll say that's I think.
Oh yeah.
For me,
that's a masterpiece.
For me, that is like the climax of the franchise, in my opinion.
So Brian, outside of Mega Man, what kinds of games do you typically enjoy? And you can also use this as an opportunity to just tell us more about your gaming history. We heard about the PlayStation being given to you by the grandparents, but like, walk us through what other kinds of games you like playing.
I'm a big RPG guy, and I think like Mega Man, that kind of stemmed from seeing RPG games before playing the games themselves. So just like Mega Man discovery through GamePro, I discovered Lunar, Silver Star Story through GamePro. The magazine ad for that really captured my eye. So I'm a big RPG guy, and Lunar was a big one growing up. Final Fantasy. Strangely, oddly enough, like for a 90s kid, Final Fantasy 7 was not my first. It was Final Fantasy 9. So that one's very, very near and dear to my heart. But yeah, I was a PlayStation guy for a while, so that Nintendo library was kind of off limits for a good portion of my childhood. But then I discovered the magical world of emulators. And gosh, just fell in love with all the wonderful like first-party Nintendo games. Platformers, wonderful. Gosh, I really love Mario. I really like some really like obscure games that not many people in the mainstream really love. Like Deadly Premonition, love that. Games that I thought I would, like hate play or jokingly play, I ended up falling in love with. That was kind of like one of them. But yeah, RPGs and platformers are kind of like my bread and butter.
Nice.
And Metal Gear, absolutely love Metal Gear. I think Metal Gear is like my second favorite video game franchise.
Ooh, awesome.
Yeah, and my introduction to that was through like a PlayStation demo disc. And I just remember being stuck trying to get out of the water of Metal Gear Solid 1, like because the controls were very confusing. I was really used to like Mega Man and stuff. That was like my very first like 3-dimensional game. But yeah, I'm a big Metal Gear guy. But yeah, these days, like when I have the time, I will just kind of pick up and play whatever kind of catches my interest. RPGs, unfortunately, have kind of fallen by the wayside as adulting grows ever more a thing. But yeah, Mega Man will always be that consistent thing in my life. And, with my dwindling time management these days, I will still keep coming back to Mega Man above all.
Amazing. It's good to have that one that you're passionate about.
Yeah. That's like the one, it's like, okay, I've got to set aside time. All my other tasks, like this Mega Man game came out today. So this is, I got to at least turn it on day one.
Yeah. It's the thing. It's the thing that feels like coming home. Like you feel like this is who I am.
Oh, absolutely. I like my sense of childhood and like sense of wonder. If I feel like I've ever lost it, I just kind of look back on Mega Man and just all these great memories of playing with my brother with Mega Man in the basement and drawing pictures as a kid. They just come flooding back. So it really is like home.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, to move more into the indie sphere, there are several indie Mega Man-like games now, and you could even look at games like Shovel Knight that were maybe Mega Man-likes and there are now like Shovel Knight-likes. We talked about this in a recent episode.
Yeah.
Which ones have you played? Which ones do you want to try? And then, like, what do you think are the absolutely mandatory elements to officially make it a Mega Man-like?
Yeah. So I've tried a handful of these by Inti Creates, who I'm personally familiar with from their work on the Mega Man Zero and ZX series. Was not a big fan of Mighty Number 9, but I really liked what they did with Gunvolt. I thought while being an original property, it still carried a bit of that Mega Man spirit. And I think part of that is because just how like tight the game design is, the quick lightning action, the music, like my God. Yeah, I think that the music is bar none one of the most important elements to having your Mega Man like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether you're doing a game that, you know, is futuristic like Mega Man or something like Shovel Knight, it has to have that kind of that Mega Man musical flair, you know, those bops that really get you going. That's definitely very important for me. But yeah, looking at this list, Bat Boy, that was really cool. Mighty Gunvolt Burst was fantastic.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I wish Mighty Number 9 would have been more like Gunvolt Burst.
I believe we said that
Personally.
in the episode where we covered Gunvolt Burst.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was a great one. LunarLux, I haven't actually played it, but I followed that game through its development. You know, the fellow who worked on that game came to me as like a Backloggd fan and showed it to me, and I love the way it looks.
Yeah.
It's got those gorgeous sprites, the art direction, the lighting, all good stuff. But yeah, I think what really makes these Mega Man likes, it comes down to like the music, the level design. Some of these games will have like their callbacks to Mega Man with, you know, like the 8 Robot Masters and how the weapon system works with the weaknesses. I don't want to say that's like essential, because then we're kind of getting a little too copycat like, but just kind of having good game balance between your arsenal, you know, how weapons work. Yeah, I think that's really important too.
Okay, cool. Yeah. There's several. I did send you a list of the ones that I've played. There's several that I want to play as well. Like I seem to remember you posting about Protodude is what I think it's called at one point. And I have been planning to play that for years. I just haven't gotten around to it. So
yeah, I worked on that one.
Oh, did you really?
Oh.
Yeah, I was the lead scriptwriter for that.
Whoa.
Oh,
that's
I didn't know that. Oh, that's dope.
The game director came to me and he had this idea for a story, gave me like just a very general outline, and he's like, you know, work your Mega Man magic. Don't make it too much like Mega Man. But this is Mega Man's the inspiration. Mega Man Legends is the inspiration. Let's go from there. So I wrote the dialogue for that. And that was a lot of fun. It was a great opportunity to throw in some really nice nods to Mega Man, some little Mega Man Easter eggs in the dialogue. But yeah, that game is really fun, and I say that without bias. If there were ever a 3D Mega Man, not like a Mega Man Legends style, but like a classic Mega Man in 3D, I would say it should play like Protodude.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Now I'm even more excited to
play
Disco,
it. You got to play that. Disco's going to go home and play that today, Brian.
I'm going to I think there's a physical for it. If I'm not mistaken, I'll go buy the physical.
Limited run, I think they did something.
Yeah. So I might go eBay that real quick.
And the full title is Protodude Delta, correct?
Oh, yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Just for people's awareness. That's awesome to hear about. Sweet. Yeah. And then finally, Brian, what are you looking forward to doing next? It could either be about Rockman Corner, it could be about personal things, whatever. Yeah. What are you looking forward to?
So one thing I'm really looking forward to that is related to Rockman Corner, I actually can't talk about. But know that I am very much looking forward to it. And I think a lot of my readers and fans will greatly appreciate it as well. But something that I can talk about, I have a lot of nice articles lined up, more on some more canceled Mega Man games from the past that people have never heard of before. I get to share some details on those. Yeah, very excited. It's one of those things that I've been doing years and years of research for, and I think we finally reached a point where I've gotten as much info about those as I can. So I'm hoping to present some of that information soon. Maybe some visuals and videos to go along with it. Some really cool things no one has ever seen before. I just, I know some people come away with it saying, oh, I hate Capcom. Why? But just for those people, just know, I do this out of love, and I think it's important to preserve some of the history there, to recognize the work of people who didn't get their work published. And just to kind of give this a platform. But yeah, personally, I'm getting a new car finally.
Oh, nice.
Congratulations.
That's a big thing.
Well, thank you so much. I've had used cars my whole life and recently looking into a new car. So I feel like a big boy.
That's
Yeah.
You made it. You made it.
Yeah.
You won the economy.
Yeah, for now. We'll see.
Brian, sorry, secret last question. For people who want to find your content and read your articles and everything else you do, where should they go?
Yeah, you guys can find Rockman Corner at www.rockman-corner.com. And if you want to follow me on Twitter or X, you can look me up at Protodude. I also have a Bluesky. Don't know my handle offhand there. So if you just Google Protodude and Bluesky, I'm sure you'll find it.
Yeah, that's how I found you. So I know that it works.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, right here.
So Brian, it's been wonderful talking to you about everything Rockman Corner, everything you do, your passions, your gaming interests, all that stuff. But we're not done with you yet. We're going to move on to our next segment with you, which is reviewing the game you chose from our list, CrossCode. It is our featured game. So CrossCode is a 2018 action RPG developed by Radical Fish Games and published by Deck 13. The game synopsis from the Steam storefront reads, quote, "A retro-inspired 2D action RPG set in the distant future. CrossCode combines 16-bit SNES-style graphics with butter-smooth physics, a fast-paced combat system, and engaging puzzle mechanics served with a gripping sci-fi story," end quote. So I will set up the setting and the story. I'm not going to cover everything here because this is a long game with a pretty intricate story with lots of characters, and there's some twists and turns here and there. But this is how we begin. There's a classic top-down perspective going on. We play as Leah, who is a mostly silent protagonist. I say mostly because at first Leah can't really talk, and then we get some more words to use in dialogue here and there. But Leah is a player in a futuristic MMORPG called CrossWorlds that combines a virtual world with an actual physical place. So CrossWorlds is built and maintained by this company called Instatainment, and they bought this moon called Shadoon, where the artificial bodies that players control are. And that's what they control when they log into the game. And Leah has amnesia and learns that she must play CrossWorlds in order to find her memories. She is assisted by a programmer named Sergei Asimov, who helps recover her vocabulary and gives her details about her backstory. We also befriend a fellow player named Emily, or maybe Amelie. I'm not actually sure because of the way it's spelled,
French,
and
yeah.
she's French. But I've been using both interchangeably. And together they explore and eventually join the First Scholars Guild. There are some other people we meet along the way. Amelie has some friends that we encounter. There are guild members that we get to know. And as Leah, you explore CrossWorlds, you do quests for townsfolk, you traverse dungeons, and you learn more about where you come from. I want to keep it kind of just basic there because there's a lot more that happens, but would either of you add anything to that?
Maybe add that CrossWorlds is still a game, so while several of the characters you interact with are also real humans that are playing the game, there are also NPCs within the game on this moon Shadoon.
There are layers going on where it's like you realize, oh, these are like the interactions you'd have in an actual MMO, knowing that the people you're talking to have real life counterparts. And so that's informing how they speak to you and things like that. So it's a very interesting concept. How about what we do gameplay wise, Disco?
Yeah, this one's a little bit of a heavy lift. So like you said, top-down 2D experience. As for inputs, if you're playing on a controller, you're using your L stick to move around the environment, and there will be like a great number of characters or environmental elements that you can interact with. So like your press whatever to talk. Sometimes you'll interact with like books on a shelf or, a trash can like in LunarLux. I don't remember if I mentioned that, but you can talk to most characters you see in the game and they will just talk to you, or maybe they'll give you some backstory on the world and fill out like your codex, your journal of like lore and history. And some of them will even give you quests. There's a lot of side quests in this game. This is an action RPG, so there's combat that is not turn-based as it would be in some other RPGs. So you'll have a lot of controls that are most beneficial in combat, primary being your ability to aim and throw spheres. So you will slow down and aim a reticle using your R stick with one of your shoulder buttons, and you can begin to throw a bunch of spheres. And this will be your most primary form of attack. You also have access to a melee. So on PlayStation, this is square. And the left trigger will give you access to a wheel of options, including, most importantly, access to a map or the ability to use consumables during battle. During battles, you will build up what's called SP. And SP is a meter that allows you to use high damage attacks that usually like lock the enemy in place if you're close by. You also have access to a shield that will reduce the damage of an opponent's attack or sometimes outright block it. And then as you progress through the game, you gain access to new elements, like literal elements like fire, ice, wave, and shock. And many enemies will be weak to one of these 4 different elements. And then on the subject of elements, as you level up, you gain what's called CP, which I assume stands for circuit points, which you can apply to different, what are essentially skill trees that upgrade your elements and how they perform and maybe some of your special attacks. And some of them will have diverging paths, so you can pick which path matches your playstyle the most. But to keep it relatively short, in general, it's an RPG. So there's several more RPG elements at play based on like leveling up, equipment, resistance, overall stats. It's an RPG. Stats, player, level up, quests are king. You get the point.
And it's all within the context of kind of being in this MMO, at least for a lot of it, where it's interesting. It's just going back to the layers thing where it's like this game is very aware that it's drawing upon the MMO tropes. So it's set in that kind of a space, but it itself is also an RPG that you, the player, are playing, so it's just interesting. It's like you're playing a simulation of an MMO in a way. But this game is critically adored. It's released in 2018. Not a lot else to say, like historically about it, I think. But Brian, we are curious before we get into our thoughts. You looked at our big list of game options. You might have picked a handful as like a short list, and then we whittled it down to CrossCode. What about CrossCode drew your eye, and why did you pick it?
So I heard rumblings in the last few years that there was an indie RPG that reminded people of .hack. And I don't know if any of you have heard of .hack or your listeners, but this was a series of PlayStation 2 RPGs that also presented themselves as a single-player MMO. And that was one of my favorite RPGs growing up. And when I saw on the list CrossCode, I was like, wait a minute, I think that's the game people were telling me about. That was like .hack. And sure enough, it is. And that's what really drew it to me. It just reminded me so much of .hack from the premise of a fake MMO. And boy, does it do a good job of that.
Yeah.
I was really impressed.
So you had not played CrossCode before?
I have not, but I had strong, almost nostalgia for the idea of it. This premise that it's a offline MMO. So that really attracted me to picking that one out of the whole list.
Awesome. And then if you could just go into your overall thoughts, we'd love to know your likes, any dislikes, and your feelings on the game.
Yeah. Gosh, I really loved the combat. It was fast. It was very fluid. I felt like I had a lot of agency over it with, the elemental powers and, kind of allocating my abilities and stuff. It just felt really good, like mixing the melee strikes with those ricocheting, like energy shots. That was just very well done. I do like my RPGs with a little bit of puzzles. So I think this for at least the start of the game, not so much the later half, had a really good balance of the Zelda-like puzzle dungeon designs. There was really a great Zelda quality to it that it just felt very rewarding when you figured things out. Later half of the game, the puzzles got a little... It felt like they went on forever. So I was feeling some of that puzzle fatigue. But I don't know. I feel like once you overcame that, I still had that sense of like, I did it. That was really cool. So in the moment, it was a little, oh boy. But yeah, it still was very, very, very rewarding. I felt like the character dialogue was very strong. Even though it was really limited, Leia's, her personality really kind of shone through, and I credit a lot of that to like the sprite work and the art direction, the portraits of the characters talking. The supporting characters are really, really well developed and really likable. If you just kind of pretend that this is a real MMO, you can kind of, I don't know, you kind of feel like these are your friends almost, and that was a really strong quality for .hack 2. And I feel like this did a really good job of that too, making these artificial MMO players feel real. And, these are the characters that they designed or created or whatever. I really liked it. Yeah. Yeah, the graphics were beautiful. Just really took me back to those 16-bit SNES RPGs like Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana. You could really tell that the team loved video games. And this just feels like a love letter to all that.
Yeah, we'll talk about inspirations later and maybe what you notice about similarities and then how CrossCode maybe takes things further. We'd love to hear about that too. Unless there are any other thoughts, we'd love to know your rating out of 10 as well.
Yeah, I'd give this an 8.
Nice.
It's, the puzzles and the combat. It's one of the indies I've played in the similar kind of genre. It's one of the most rewarding that I've played. It does require some patience and some persistence, but once you get through some of the trickier areas, it's very rewarding. So I think if you really like 16-bit RPGs, or you just even like top-down action games like Zelda, you'll really like this one.
Amazing. Well, we'll get some more in-depth thoughts about maybe regions, characters, special moments. But first, we're going to go to DiscoCola. What were your overall thoughts?
So I'll start by saying, and I let both of you know ahead of time, that I didn't get to finish CrossCode all the way, but I did get most of the way, and I did watch the remainder online. So the surface level, apart from just being simply too long for me to reach the ending in time, what I played and what I watched online made for an overall pretty positive experience for me. For specific things that I like, I think this game is just crazy attractive, like Brian said. I love the pixel art. It is reminiscent of that 16-bit era. And just the sprites, the overworld, the portraits, even the different like elemental attacks. It's all just really incredibly well done. CrossCode is just really attractive to look at. And like Brian said, like the sprite work in the portraits of the characters especially is doing so much work in conjunction with the writing. It's just a really attractive game. Next, by poking and prodding around, you tend to get a sense for what basically everything does. The thing I'm thinking of in particular is like those, when you get to the sinking holes in the sand, I can see that visually and I know exactly what kind of puzzle I'm about to do. Though at the same time, I will say that the like green swirly orbs that we see in the northern forest, those had me pondering for a little bit longer than I wanted to ponder on them because I was seeing dozens of them before I could even interact with them. I like most of the characters in the game, even Apollo, whose character traits aren't necessarily my favorite. I still like him a lot. They're was this like really incredibly touching moment with Citron and Emily that I got to experience, and like story-wise was one of my favorite parts of the game. And it's impressive to me that CrossCode was capable of being so emotive, especially given that our character is canonically mute. We still get so much emotion out of everything that's happening. I really like the music. I don't think I heard a single track that I disliked. And the battle music it really gets me hyped every time. So
yeah, it doesn't get old.
Yeah, I really, whenever I'm like, oh, I accidentally hit this hedgehog. Oh, well, it's fine. This music's dope. I'll just run with it. And then the music plays a big part of that. Speaking of battles, I really love meleeing in particular. The feel and the animation for that 1, 2, 3 and spin, it's so great. And even hitting enemies with the orbs and watching them get pushed back as if they were getting like pelted by snowballs is really satisfying.
That is what it's like.
And then there's like that break system when the enemy becomes vulnerable to a large amount of attack. That's like its own reward within battling each enemy. It's just really satisfying. And then lastly, on this side of the coin, I want to mention completion. Like LunarLux, who was obviously inspired by CrossCode, this might be my favorite completion tracker in a game. Basically at all times, by going to my menu, I have a great sense of where all my side quests are in progress, where I am in the game overall, how many lore pieces there are to be found in the environment. And then there's even more with how it tracks enemies and plants and their item drops that I didn't really pay close attention to, but I also understand is like super helpful in crafting items. So super incredible completion tracker, which for me is like, Brian, you don't know this, but I am a completionist, maybe a recovering completionist, but I'm working on it.
You can tell you can tell the team at Radical Fish, they are detail oriented with just information. And it shows in the menu so many times. And I was appreciating not just like the stuff about crafting, what you pointed out, but also just information about the story, information about the characters. You can put this game down for a while and come back and refamiliarize yourself with what's going on in the story really easily just by going into the menu. You do kind of have to dig. You have to go through some submenus, but I found it to be so helpful. There are so many longer RPGs that you really have to stick with in a short amount of time to absorb it all. If you're not really being consistent with it, you can kind of lose track of things. This game is more friendly in that way. I appreciated that.
And to add on to that, I'll mention that it can be kind of easy to accidentally skip some dialogue in this game, but you'll have that access to that.
The log.
And you'll be able to be like, okay, so what was this character's deal? But even just on the main pause menu or whatever, it lists like the most recent dialogue as well. And you can scroll up, and that's super helpful.
Yes, I love that.
On the other side of the coin, the first and most super obvious thing that I didn't love about this game is that it's too long. Obviously, there's a whole type of gamers out there where this is like their thing. But unless this is all that I play and I don't have a deadline like this, I can't make it work, which is hard because I did want to keep going with side quests and I did want to keep crafting items. And I wanted to do New Game Plus because it looks really funny, but I just didn't get there. I mentioned how battling feels really good, and here is where I have to say your main form of battling, like I said, is aiming and throwing the spheres. Leah is a spheromancer. After all, that's her class in the game. But I found that it's really difficult for me. It takes a little bit too long for me to aim, for the aim to line up, even after like upgrading how quickly your aim lines up. I'm not good with 360 degrees of aiming as opposed to like an 8-directional system. And then add on top of that the like angled ricochet. It was just really challenging for me. And it's not something I think I can really master because like geometry and spatial reasoning are just an inherent deficit of mine. So I think I have a pretty significant skill ceiling there.
Gotcha.
And that makes throwing the spheres really challenging. And while I appreciate a lot of the puzzle ideas, some of them are just things I never would have figured out without a guide, especially after receiving like wave and shock elements. I think about how if this would have come out when I was in middle school, and if I and my brothers would have played the heck out of it, I would have been stuck forever on Chapter 8, but then one day I might look over and my brother, Sir Quokka, would be performing some insane puzzles I've never seen before because he's really good at these kind of games. And then I'd be jealous of him, and I'd probably be stuck on Chapter 8 to this day, but with like maybe some more side quests done. And then just a couple very specific things I want to mention here in the dislike section. There's an enemy that looks like this plant dragon, and I was like stuck in a room with several of them, and I found that fight to be a little unfair. The same thing kind of happened with the black shock cats. I was up against like 8 of those. And then, like I alluded to, Chapter 8 in particular was particularly frustrating to me. It has 3 dungeons, and granted, they seem smaller in scale. I found the puzzles to be way more complicated than anything that came before. But then the game also throws those like long hallways with multiple waves of enemies and no checkpoint in the middle. And so it was at that point in those battles that I added CrossCode to my Backloggd list, where I introduced my hand to a tabletop, so to speak.
Right. You got tilted.
I got tilted.
Okay. Understandable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, sorry, just want to interject with a question. Did you mess with the approachability settings? Because you can't. Okay. That's something I did.
Okay.
Maybe like halfway through. You can slow down the frequency of enemy attacks, I want to say.
Oh.
What else? There's like 2 or 3 things you can affect, but nothing that dramatically like makes it easy. I think it just will slow things down mostly.
Okay.
So that you can react a little bit quicker. I think there's a puzzle difficulty, like a puzzle speed sort of setting where puzzles that rely on timing, those will be slowed down. So you can affect combat a little bit, and you can also affect the puzzles.
Well, that might have helped a lot, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, especially later on.
Oh well.
But yeah, I encourage that. Like, just for anybody who wants to play CrossCode and who hasn't, I encourage that if you're feeling like this game's a little too fast, or I don't quite feel like I gel with the puzzles, that's in there, which I really appreciate.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll take a look at that. But what it comes down to is a few things. What I found is that the best way to find yourself to arrive at the end of the game is to complete as much of the side quests as possible, because that's going to be one of your best ways to get experience and level up. And while I find that complete the game to do as good as possible is a good design choice, in general, I simply don't have the time to do what the game is asking in my life. And while this game is accessible for most ages, it's definitely meant to appeal to people my age. And so CrossCode is kind of a big commitment in that way. That being said, the quests, the world design, the elements, the upgrades are varied and fun to interact with. Like LunarLux, it has one of my favorite completion trackers, and until about Chapter 8, I was pretty much always having fun, and I do still hope to finish this game, because I know that if this would have come out in middle school, I would have absolutely loved it. And because of that, I'm going to give it still an 8.5 out of 10.
8.5. Wonderful. Yeah, I'm right in line with a lot of your guys' thoughts. I just think it's a really impressive mixture of influences and gameplay mechanics. Brian, like you said, I think this nails that feeling of a fictional MMO. You see characters running around in real time as you're going through the world. Most of them are characters you can't interact with, but you just get that feeling that, oh, there are other players in this space running around. And here they're doing maybe the same quest I am. And I think that's really cool. You never feel like you're alone, really. There's lots to find and focus on. There's this sense of this large open world with different regions. And so I think they nailed that feeling of an MMORPG. And I was brought back to times when I was younger when I would play. These are very different like styles of game, but I would play Guild Wars and I would play MapleStory. Those were the 2 like MMOs that I played. And I just remember seeing other players around and that sense of just like, this is a world and I'm a participant. And that's how you're made to feel too. I also really love how smoothly the game handles combat and exploration and platforming. It feels like there are these seamless transitions between different sections of the game. I really like the default movement speed too. If you're on your way to a place, it doesn't feel like you're running for that long. Pulling open that map, you see that often you have multiple routes to get to places. And then we also have the fast travel points that are common, and I was using them constantly to get around. And also just going back to the fact that the game is always clear about information and what you need to do. It never was really a puzzle on like where to go, because usually the regions were outlined, the locations were explained clearly. And then it's maybe just a matter of going to my map and finding that place and going, oh yeah, that's the building I need to go to, or that's the region I need to fast travel to. So all the confusion that I might have had was usually like on an individual puzzle in a dungeon, which I think is the intent of the game. They want you to get stuck on those puzzles because they're puzzles. They don't want you to get stuck on like, where do I need to go in this big game? I thought the combat was very fun and kind of chaotic. You're switching between the projectiles and the melee. I love the feeling of getting those charged hits and holding in like R2 and doing like a big sweep to attack multiple enemies. The bosses have these fun little puzzles you figure out to get them to break. And they usually are thematically tied into whatever dungeon you're in. You know, they're calling back to an idea that's been introduced a few times, just like classic Zelda, right? And then I think it's got a really engaging story that keeps me curious. I think it does start a little slow, and we don't get a lot of info as time goes on. It is later in the game when things really start to unravel. And I just love that thorough in-game menu that summarizes on things, that expounds on things for you. When I get into things I didn't like as much, I found that there are a lot of times in this game where we need to platform, and there are various levels of terrain. And I got my depth perception of like those levels of terrain messed me up. And sometimes it's just difficult to read on like where you're supposed to go within like one area. There are some sections that are especially too long. I think the chapters are really inconsistently lengthed too. Like you mentioned chapter 8 having the 3 dungeons, whereas chapters 1 through 3 or 4, you can finish easily in one sitting. And so it's just, you don't really have a sense for how long things will take sometimes. I think the story kind of takes a while to really get going before I care about it. Switching between elements during combat can feel a little clumsy. And then I found that equipment, when I am exploring through towns and I'm looking at what merchants are offering, I found that trading materials for equipment sometimes things were pricey, or I had to do a series of chores to like exchange a certain like raw material for an ingredient. And even then I might not still have, even close to enough of what I need to buy a chest plate or whatever. But then there are the merchants that just sell you equipment for credits. And I was always going to those people first. It's like, I don't have enough raw materials to trade for a lot of this stuff as I'm going through. Maybe it's that I wasn't doing enough side quests and things, but I just could never afford the stuff where people are like trading for raw materials, if that makes sense. Yeah. But overall, CrossCode is a game. I didn't mention this, by the way. I'm kind of in Disco's boat. I still haven't finished it because it's a long game. I've reached like a certain hour count that I think is a lot and enough for me to still speak on the game, but I'm still making my way through and I will finish it just like Disco. I think I'm just a little bit behind Disco. And I understand the balance of what this game is doing though, and I think it's admirable with how much it does so well. It does feel a little long for my tastes, but I love its personality. I think what it does, even though it has a lot of inspirations, I think what it does compared to what I've played in the past feels like it's all its own. Like Brian, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. We like this game quite a lot. Yeah. We're all positive on it. So now I'm curious, as we look at the personality of the game, as we look at the story and the world, do we have particularly favorite characters? We could start there.
Oh, yeah. Leia. is absolutely my favorite. And I didn't think that would happen until much, much later in the game. I will try to avoid spoilers as much as possible, but for silent protagonists, I think the norm for players is to kind of like imprint themselves upon them. But her pre-programmed phrases and words, just because her speech model is broken, it's kind of charming, and it grows on you. There's some humor in it, but there's a wonderful payoff for it in the end. Not giving it away, but I don't know. I felt like her character came really full circle towards the end, and while everybody else had like their kind of their quirks and their colorfulness to it, I really liked her, especially in the end. I won't spoil it for you guys, but it's well worth the 40, 60 hours just to kind of see that kind of payoff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. Disco, I am curious, you mentioned the Citron and Emily anecdote. I don't know if there's any more you can share about that, but like, just why was that special since you did call it out?
Well, it goes to that very specific point about all of the work that the portraits are doing. Just because there's this moment of tension, moment of conflict between friends, and the way that it's resolved with such a limited vocabulary and this intermediary that we find in Citron is just, it was a really touching moment, and I shed a couple tears during that, and it was
amazing.
It was such a great moment. And so I guess I have to point, I agree with Brian that Leia's my favorite. There's a moment with her and Sergei where she's mad at Sergei, and one of the only words she can say is bye. And so she keeps saying it to get him to leave her alone, because he's kind of like inescapably attached to her in a way that she can't control. And so she has to really put her foot down. And I really admired her in that moment. That was really, because he's the only one that can really like help her.
Yeah.
But she's also, feeling betrayed in that moment. So, yeah, just the way that Leia interacts with the world. But yeah, I like her whole party. I like Emily, and Citron, like I said, was a great intermediary in that moment of heated tensions. And I really admire people that are able to be peacemakers in a positive way instead of by force, of course. So yeah, there weren't characters that I disliked, I think.
Yeah, totally. I would agree with that based on what I've seen. Going back to Sergei, that's one of mine, honestly. I am a little suspicious of Sergei at the beginning of this game because I'm like, who is this guy talking to us from the shadows? I've seen a lot of these stories play out where there's this helpful person and what's your deal, actually? But this is the reason why we're getting more words, and that limited expressiveness of Leia is super interesting and actually also leads to humorous moments too. They're just by nature of having such a limited vocabulary, there are times where like you get a word and you think, ooh, it'll be interesting to see how she might use this word dramatically. And then because she's just limited to that word, she'll just repeat it over and over to a character and they'll be like, oh, okay, not what I would have said, So I was laughing, actually. So we've got Disco crying and also introducing his fist to a tabletop at some points. I'm laughing at a few times. So I guess this game's bringing out a lot of emotions in us. And I didn't expect that. I would say that I went into this game thinking it'd be just more of a action-focused game where we don't feel emotions. And so I'm really pleased that a lot of this is happening. I think it's really cool. As we go into like other favorites, I'm curious if you have favorite chapters or dungeons or regions too.
It was really hard, but I really liked the, what was the ice? It was like the ice themed dungeon. That was really tricky. But it ended up, it became a favorite just because, you really had to work on your ricochet there. And that one for me felt really rewarding. It's definitely one of the hardest, presents some of those hardest puzzles in the game. But it kind of brought me more into the premise that this is a fake MMO because I found myself like looking up guides just as I would do if I were actually playing this as an MMO. So overcoming those challenges and kind of just like working with other people who played the game and those who wrote the guide just kind of maybe felt more like in tune, like, this is an MMO that I'm playing and I'm working together with other players who solve this puzzle. I came out of that puzzle just feeling really strong in like my ability to like, ricochet stuff better, problem solve better. I really like that one.
For me, I really liked... I remember that there were these moth bosses, and you had to sort of like attract them to a pole.
Yes.
And then you shoot the spheres across to like stun them, get them out of the air or whatever.
Is that in the Fajro Temple?
Probably.
One of the first temples.
Yes.
Though. Yes. I know what you're talking about.
I enjoyed that moment as far as like dungeons go. And then even though I was just dogging on the shock and wave dungeons, the first time that I felt like I figured out one of the hard things in the game was you have these like translucent angled pieces that you can rotate, and that's for the wave puzzle. And I clicked with that. I don't know what it was. It was just like, this is a hard puzzle element, but I actually understand this one. And so like rotating those angled ricochet bits for the wave element dungeon, I was like, okay, I get this one. And so I felt satisfied with those puzzles because I was like, I get it, and I feel proud that I understand this one.
I think the longest dungeon in the game that I've seen, and it might be one of the longest overall, is Fajro Temple. And I just remember getting like roughly halfway through and thinking, this is surely almost done. And then we go outside and it's like, hey, we're at about the halfway point. And I go, what? Huh? But I will say a lot of the ricochet stuff in there was fun, especially when we need to mix up those angled pieces of terrain that are made of water. And sometimes we need to freeze them. Sometimes we need to evaporate them. And figuring that out was very satisfying. And it just plays with all of the ideas of lava and ice and water that I've seen in games and just kind of condensed into this one long dungeon. I did think that it was a little long for my taste, but I just felt super satisfied going through there. And then for environments, I really like Vermilion Wasteland because I don't expect that kind of a dark place after I've been through like Autumn's Fall. That's like really switching things up about halfway through the game. And you just get the sense that like this place is not earmarked for like normal players to actually traverse. And so it just kind of feels like off limits and scary. And I guess it's like Halloween season now, so it felt kind of fitting for the time of year for me.
I just remembered that there's this one dungeon where we're on the run from something existential, and Sergey helps us break boundaries of the game. And that puzzle, that whole section of the game was really cool and satisfying to play, but also funny at times. So I want to add that to my list as well.
Nice.
So looking at CrossCode, you mentioned .hack, but we want to look at maybe some other inspirations you see for CrossCode. I see a couple. And how does this stand apart from other RPGs?
I think, like we talked about, 16-bit top-down action RPGs play a huge source of inspiration here. But also at the same time, it reminds me a bit of I'm drawing a blank. Oh, that's that other indie game. Heart
Machine. Are you talking about Hyperlight Drifter?
Yeah. Hyperlight Drifter, yes.
That's
there were moments from that really brought me back to like Hyperlight Drifter. And it was something we talked about a little bit earlier, where it's such a gorgeous game, but at times it's difficult to discern, can I jump onto this? Can I go over to this? And I found that same kind of issue with Hyperlight Drifter. So, whether or not that was intentional, I don't know. But there were some callbacks to Hyperlight Drifter I was catching from like a visual standpoint, which is, not a bad thing at all. That is a gorgeous game. But yeah, there were environments that just kind of gave me hints of like Chrono Trigger, and the sense of wonder that those kind of games give as you screen scroll onto the next. You're like, ooh, this is a really cool environment. Yeah, I think we owe a lot to the 16-bit era to this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I don't always pick up on the like Hyperlight Drifter. Hyperlight Drifter, you don't know this is my favorite indie game ever. But yeah, I did pick up a couple times where I was like, oh, I see some Hyperlight Drifter in there. I don't play a ton of RPGs unless they're Digimon. And I don't know that I can directly call this an inspiration because maybe this is, these elements are in other RPGs. But I did see a lot of stuff that I recognized from like Digimon World 3 specifically. And so I would consider that an inspiration, but I'm not on the team. I just see a lot there that I recognize from Digimon World 3. And then as far as like how it stands apart, pretty much all of the RPGs I've played are turn-based, and so this one is like one of the only action RPGs with stat parameter element, equipment system like this. So that's how it stands apart for me. And the geometry of it all, like ricocheting, is like a big thing, and I don't know of a lot of games that have done that.
Yeah, my touch point with a lot of the inspirations going into this game are Zelda games, like a lot of classic Zelda games, and even some of the more modern ones that harken back to the classic era. Going through the dungeons, I'm recognizing concepts that I've seen before. It's just that I feel like this game is doing so many more of them within a dungeon, or it's such a long game with such a diverse range of ideas and mechanics and concepts. It's just kind of pulling it all together. And again, I'm just really impressed that it does it all so consistently well. Like there are all these pillars that hold up this game, and I think they're all like pretty masterful in a lot of ways. But like I'm noticing things like, you said the Disco, you mentioned the quicksand idea, like falling through the floor. And that's a thing that you see in Zelda dungeons. But yeah, that's my familiarization with a lot of the influences. And then I'd say like the MMORPG stuff I mentioned, I think it's just taking a lot of inspiration from that sense of a world and a sense of community too, and how you get to know your guildmates and how they each portray different emotions very clearly, and they all somehow get together and get along too, and do quests. I just think that part's super cool with the personality. I kind of have a follow-up question with like the mechanics of this game. Because there are just so many mechanics, I found that there are things that I forgot about or entirely skipped. Such as, I know we learn how to block in this game early on. I didn't really do that in this game, and I also didn't really use items mid-combat. So I'm curious if you guys had anything that you sort of left by the wayside, or just by virtue of this game having so many features and mechanics going on.
Not so much gameplay-wise, but I didn't really find a need to look back on like the lore or pulling all that up. It's readily available, accessible right there. But that's something that there were moments where I'm like, oh, I can look at that again. Oops. It is a very long game, and there were times where I would take a break for like a week or two, and like, oh, I forgot. I can just look this up. Oh yeah, I remember this. Yeah. So that's very much appreciated. Something I just completely forgot about throughout my playthrough, but it was always there.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like you, didn't do too much blocking. I did forget about it for a while, but then I definitely wanted to use it at a certain point and just wasn't good at it. So I didn't use it very much.
Because you hadn't been doing it all that time.
Right.
I relate to that.
But then this is more as a consequence of deadline. I kind of stopped messing with my equipment after a while because it was just like, I got to sprint to the end of the game, man. Like, it's Tuesday, we're recording on Sunday, and I'm in chapter 7. I got to quit doing side quests. I got to go to the main story.
Right.
Apparently that's not a good way to be strong enough to get to the end of the story. So, but that was, I eventually stopped messing with my equipment because I was just like, I don't even know where the next person is that sells the equipment for credits. I just got to go.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I was kind of hustling too. I was doing like all the side stuff, and then I really became focused as time went on, and it kind of comes back to bite you if you're not, doing the grinding and stuff. But Brian, we want to give you the last opportunity to have the floor if you want to say anything else about the game.
I think, this is a really charming action RPG that has unfortunately been overlooked. I feel like it's not talked about nearly enough as it should, especially from, people that are looking for something that's different. There are a lot of games in the indie space that are very samey, and while this does share some gameplay mechanics with other indie games, its strength really relies in its premise and the world building, the fake MMO. I think like if more people knew about that, they would be really more inclined to check it out. For me, it brought back some really good memories of like, dot hack, older style MMOs, but it has a very unique premise to itself. I just wish more people knew about it. So, getting the word out there and talking about it like we are today will hopefully help.
Awesome. Yeah. When I've heard people talk about this, I do agree that not enough people talk about it, but when people have talked to me about their favorite indie games and they happened to have played CrossCode, I've heard people say, oh, that's my favorite indie game. Or I've heard someone say, that's my favorite game. So
nice.
I hope that encourages people to think about picking it up if they're interested in RPGs and action games and puzzle games and all of that being rolled into one, and you haven't played it yet. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when, God damn it, what's the name of that game that I was really excited about?
You're going to have to be more specific.
Unsighted.
Oh, okay. Yes.
I remember when Unsighted was in development, people were like comparing it to CrossCode. And like CrossCode has been on our list since the dawn of Underplayed. But when I saw that comparison, I was like, oh, okay, I really want to try CrossCode now.
Yeah. I was reminded of Unsighted as well in this. Thanks for bringing that up. Brian, how about one more time you tell people where to find your content before we sign off?
Yeah, you can find Rockman Corner at www.rockman-corner.com. And if that doesn't work out for you, you can follow me on Twitter at Protodude. And I'm also on Bluesky. Just Google Protodude Bluesky and you'll find me.
Yes, you will. We want to thank you so much, Brian, for joining us. This has been an absolute pleasure. It was great talking to you about your content and also CrossCode. And we wish you all the best in what's next for you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, guys.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, man. It's been a real treat for me, especially. So I've been looking forward to this.
Happy to be here.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that is our review of CrossCode. You can play it on PC, Mac, Linux, Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series. Brian rated it an 8. DiscoCola rated it an 8.5. I rated it an 8. That's the end of this episode of Underplayed. You can find more of our episodes at kzum.org/underplayed and on common podcast platforms like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Our music was composed by Jack Rodenberg. Our art comes from Onimochi. Check out our show notes where you can find and follow us across social media. Underplayed is on Bluesky, Instagram, and Threads. You can also find my links down below.
And I am at DiscoCola in many of those places, including Backloggd, where I have all of my favorite Mega Man games that I've played ranked in order, excluding Battle Networks and Star Force, because I haven't played those yet.
Next time, we will have 2 more secret games to review, and our featured game will be Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, an action-adventure game developed by Team Reptile. Until then, everyone, keep on playing.